For more than 4,500 years, the Great Pyramid of Giza has stood against time. It has survived powerful earthquakes, violent sandstorms, invading armies, and the rise and fall of entire civilizations. Millions of people have stared at its enormous stone blocks and asked the same question: how was this even possible? But perhaps that's the wrong question. Instead of asking how the Great Pyramid was built, perhaps we should ask who built it. Who were the men who spent years under the blazing Egyptian sun, moving stones that weighed more than they did? What did they eat? Where did they sleep? How dangerous was their work? And what was it really like to wake up every morning knowing another exhausting day awaited them? Today, we're leaving behind the myths and Hollywood legends to uncover the daily life of the people who helped build one of humanity's greatest achievements. For centuries, many people believed that the Great Pyramid was built by slaves. Movies, novels, and even school textbooks often portrayed thousands of exhausted workers being forced to labor under the whip, with no hope of freedom. But modern archaeology tells a very different story. Over the past few decades, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of workers' villages just south of the Great Pyramid. These settlements contained bakeries, breweries, sleeping quarters, workshops, and even cemeteries where the workers were buried with respect. If these men had simply been disposable slaves, they almost certainly would not have received such treatment. Evidence suggests that many of the pyramid builders were skilled laborers, craftsmen, and farmers who worked during the annual flooding of the Nile. Every year, the Nile overflowed its banks, covering nearby farmland with water. Farming temporarily came to a stop, allowing thousands of agricultural workers to join one of the largest construction projects in human history. They were provided with food, shelter, medical care, and organized into highly disciplined teams. That doesn't mean their lives were easy. The work was physically exhausting, dangerous, and often pushed the human body to its limits. But the image of endless lines of chained slaves is no longer supported by most modern evidence. Instead, the Great Pyramid appears to have been built by ordinary people doing extraordinary work. So, what would one ordinary day have looked like for one of these workers? Let's find out. Long before the Egyptian sun began to heat the desert, the workers were already awake. The air was surprisingly cool in the early morning, offering the best conditions for the hardest labor of the day. Within a few hours, the temperature would rise dramatically, turning the construction site into an unforgiving sea of heat. Thousands of workers gathered as the first light appeared over the horizon. The construction site was anything but chaotic. It operated like a carefully organized machine. Workers were divided into teams, each responsible for a specific task. Some cut limestone from nearby quarries. Others transported massive stone blocks across prepared roads. Skilled craftsmen shaped the stones with remarkable precision, while supervisors coordinated the movement of men, tools, and materials throughout the site. Before the day's work truly began, food was essential. Archaeological evidence suggests that workers consumed large quantities of bread and beer every day. Unlike modern beer, ancient Egyptian beer was thick, nutritious, and often safer to drink than untreated water. Alongside bread, workers also ate onions, garlic, dates, and occasionally fish or meat, providing the energy needed for hours of demanding physical labor. This wasn't a luxury. It was fuel. Without enough food, the human body simply couldn't move stones weighing several tons. As the sun climbed higher into the sky, the quiet morning quickly disappeared. Orders echoed across the construction site. Ropes tightened. Wooden sledges creaked against the ground. Another day of building one of history's greatest monuments had begun. By mid-morning, the desert was already becoming unbearably hot. For the workers, this was the most demanding part of the day. Each limestone block weighed anywhere from 2 to 3 tons. Some of the granite blocks used inside the Great Pyramid weighed far more, with a few reaching over 50 tons after being transported from quarries hundreds of kilometers away. Moving stones of this size required far more than strength. It required teamwork. Groups of workers pulled heavy wooden sledges using thick ropes woven from plant fibers. Every person had to move in perfect rhythm. If even a few workers lost their footing or pulled at the wrong moment, the entire sledge could stop, or worse, become dangerously unstable. To make the journey easier, another team walked ahead of the sledge, pouring water onto the sand. For many years, historians wondered why. Modern experiments have shown that damp sand becomes firmer, reducing friction and allowing heavy loads to slide more easily. A simple bucket of water could significantly reduce the effort needed to move enormous blocks of stone. Even with this advantage, progress was slow. The workers shouted in unison, using rhythmic chants to keep everyone pulling together. Step by step, the massive stones crept across the desert, sometimes advancing only a short distance before another brief rest was needed. Accidents were unavoidable. A snapped rope, a shifting stone, or a moment of exhaustion could cause serious injuries. Archaeologists have discovered the healed bones of workers who suffered broken arms, fractured legs, and damaged backs, evidence that many survived these injuries and continued to receive care. The Great Pyramid was not built in a single season. It was built one exhausting day at a time, and every stone that reached its destination represented hundreds of people working together toward a single goal. When the day's work finally came to an end, exhaustion followed every step back to the workers' village. Their bodies were covered in dust. Their hands were rough from ropes and stone. Their muscles ached after hours of relentless labor beneath the Egyptian sun. But the day wasn't completely over. Back at the settlement, life continued. Fresh bread was baked in large communal ovens, while breweries produced thousands of liters of beer that supplied the growing workforce. Archaeologists believe that feeding the workers required an enormous and carefully organized food system, with cattle, sheep, goats, and grain arriving regularly from across ancient Egypt. For many workers, the evening meal was the reward for surviving another demanding day. Excavations have uncovered large quantities of animal bones, suggesting that at least some workers regularly ate beef, mutton, or goat meat, far better nutrition than many people once imagined. Combined with bread, beer, vegetables, and dried fish, these meals provided the calories needed to recover before the next day's labor. Not everyone escaped injury. The archaeological record reveals broken bones that healed over time, worn joints caused by years of heavy lifting, and signs that injured workers received treatment rather than being abandoned. Simple medical care, splints, bandages, and knowledge passed down through generations helped many recover from accidents that might otherwise have ended their lives. As darkness settled over the desert, the noise of the construction site slowly faded away. Families gathered. Conversations replaced the sound of hammering stone. Tomorrow would bring another sunrise, another meal before dawn, another block of stone waiting to be moved. For the people who built the Great Pyramid, this was not an extraordinary day. It was simply life. Today, more than 4,500 years later, the Great Pyramid still dominates the Egyptian horizon. It remains one of the few surviving wonders of the ancient world, attracting millions of visitors every year. Most people remember the name of the pharaoh. Many admire the incredible engineering. Some continue to debate exactly how the pyramid was built, but few stop to think about the thousands of ordinary people whose lives became part of its foundation. The quarry workers who cut each block from the stone, the craftsmen who shaped every surface with astonishing precision, the teams who pulled those massive stones across the desert, one step at a time, the bakers who fed the workforce, the brewers who filled countless jars with beer, the physicians who treated broken bones and exhausted bodies. Each person performed only a small part of the project. Yet together, they created something that has outlived empires, kings, and even entire civilizations. The Great Pyramid is often remembered as a monument to a pharaoh, but in many ways, it is also a monument to human cooperation. A reminder that history's greatest achievements are rarely built by one extraordinary individual. They are built by thousands of ordinary people working toward the same goal. and perhaps that's the most remarkable story the Great Pyramid has to tell. If you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel and give me a like. I'll be releasing a new video soon. Have a great day.